Hi, everybody. So my name is Russell Sung, and that QR code goes to my LinkedIn. And I thought, what would be the best use of your hour after lunch? And I feel like since you're already going to be building agents into what you're doing for AI Squared, it'd be interesting to give you some insights into how the industry as a whole is looking at deploying agentic behavior into their games. And maybe give you a little bit of an insight into my journey from indie into the forefront of AI and basically how to go from zero to cracked, because I feel like that's pretty important for you guys. So these are kind of the three ways that I progressed through where I was today. I've started my journey in Ontario Tech. So when I went, it was called the University of Ontario Institute of Technology, and it was the only accredited program for game development and entrepreneurship at the time. Nowadays, you can go to Humber, you can go to Durham, you can go to a lot of universities and colleges that have certifications, but at the time, this was the only undergrad that was available to me. And so I was like, well, I like games, but fun fact, the University of Ontario Institute of Technology Game Development Entrepreneurship 4-year program had a higher attrition rate than nuclear engineering at the school. So with my cohort, I think I had 125 students enter first year, less than 20 of us graduated, right? So the attrition rate is pretty ridiculous. And I think that's because people confuse playing games with making games. And that's a clear difference that I think it applies to a lot of fields out there. So I made XR games. It was amazing. Published some to the Quest store with an indie studio out in Toronto called Stitch Media, or Games by Stitch. And the second one was actually an award-winning one. The first one wasn't, but the second one was. So there's a little bit of an analogy in there about how you should persevere, which we'll tie into later again. After that, I worked on some really interesting projects that I cared about that weren't just in games, but were still using XR. So this was like brain injury rehabilitation. These were a walking simulator for the University Health Network, all in XR, helping people with real problems solve them. So after that, I joined Unity, like the Unity, where I was part of the go-to-market team. Technically, I was a developer advocate. And if you don't know what a developer advocate is, it's like technical marketing, technical sales engineering. We had the SDKs fresh from the engineering team. We would make demos. We would go to conferences. We would go pitch. And so I got really comfortable with talking to developers and helping them understand, as a developer myself, why this SDK could solve those problems. So everything from multiplay servers to Unity ads to like cloud content delivery, so CMS systems at scale. So we're talking about like Marvel Snap, how they managed to do cloud content delivery or content delivery at scale without having to download all of these hundreds and hundreds of images onto your phone. So we were part of that initiative. I was then headhunted out of Unity to join InWorld. So InWorld AI, if you look it up on my profile there, one of the best funded startups making AI feasible for games. They've pivoted now to like runtime stuff, but when I was there, we were locked in on games. And so we got to work with customers like NVIDIA and Microsoft to pioneer what was possible with AI in games, specifically on the avatar piece. So the embodiment, the personality, the memory. Basically, we were like one of the earliest customers of 11 Labs. So shout out Maddie at 11 Labs. That included also publishing games to Steam. So actually, it's still there if you have the key, but it was called Origins, and it was basically an Unreal Engine demo of InWorld. So you could like talk through this dystopian world, find out what happened in this really, really interesting sci-fi experience. And that was where we pioneered a lot of what AI looks like in games. And now we're building, the next stage is building the future. So I've explored the AI avatar piece. Now at Artificial Agency, we are exploring the agentic piece. So not just what the character says, but what it decides to do before it says anything. The goals that that character may have in the world that it has, how it perceives the world, and how it acts to achieve those goals that it has. And fortunately, I get to work with some really interesting companies that you will see in Q1 of next year, deploying agentic behavior into their games at production. So you can say 2023 was like the year of discovery, 2024 was the year of prototyping, and now that 2025 is coming to an end, the year of like putting it into production, and 2026 would be the year of launching. So yeah, I bring a unique perspective because I'm very, very fortunate to have shaped my career to join and work at the top 3 AI and games companies in the world. And we work with companies that, like I said, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Ubisoft, really getting the chance to understand behind the scenes what game studios are focused on and what they're trying to solve. I just want to build Jarvis. Like, I'm just shaping the world to build Jarvis. So I actually truly believe that the first solo unicorn is from your generation of entrepreneurs. So I'm just like also positioning myself to get hired by you in the future. So shout out 2025. So here are how game studios are thinking about agentic trends. All right, so number 1 is QA and testing. So as you know, software devs to be, you understand that automated QA is like the future, not having to sit down in front of like a software development and test, and unit test, and unit test, and unit test. What if we could just have agents that play your game and run through your code and understand where your bugs are? So what you're gonna see is shorter development times. So you're gonna see games that were traditionally taking 3 or 4 years come down to like 1 or 2. You're gonna see patch cycles shortened as well. Because honestly, the majority of the time that a patch takes is not the patching, it's actually the validation with the consoles. So Xbox and PlayStation and Nintendo, they obviously don't want you to have buggy software, so whenever you submit a patch for validation, it goes through a whole process with them, and that can take like weeks to months. Whereas the content that you're just trying to fix could be like 2 pull requests, right? So QA is a big piece, and testing as well. Adaptive gameplay. So we all know in game dev that we have had behavior trees, and we've had A-star pathfinding, and we've had AI in games for a long, long time. But now we're having dynamic generative AI in games. So what this means is that you could have truly adaptive difficulty. So if you're playing like Elden Ring and you continuously just like facepalm into the boss, maybe things adapt without you having to change anything, right? And it kind of happens a little bit in scripted areas, right? Where, you know, sometimes the first time you beat a boss, depending on how fast you beat the boss, the second phase is harder or easier, or vice versa. But we are looking at much more dynamic, emergent gameplay behaviors. One of the companies that we're working with is a Among Us / haunted house. So the house itself is trying to like also eat you while you're trying to defeat your other players. And that really is only possible because of Gen AI in games. So the house itself is an agent trying to accomplish its own goals independent from the player. Of course, we have content creation in terms of story. So language models are really good at, you know, weaving narratives together and making something cohesive out of disparate inputs. And so imagine if you could, as a role-playing game, really have a personalized experience that's independent from the person next to you that you can then talk about and share about. So that's what we're really excited about too. And hyper-personalization. So imagine if you're a DM in a Dungeon Master or D&D game, being able to craft these hyper-personalized experiences for your players. Now imagine if the DM was an agent that is just there to help entertain you, make sure that you're enjoying your experience with your friends, and really able to, you know, look at your choices and adapt to what's happening. Yeah, so that ends the kind of corporate part of it. I would love to spend some time kind of explaining how I was able to move through the industry, because when I was in your seats, I didn't have somebody to do that for me. And now you have the fortunate space of the mentorship that is available to you, which is like incredible. So step 1 that I thought was really good was moving forward with intention. So shout out Stephanie for the boba. I did not have a boba, and then I was like, I would like a boba, Stephanie, and she magically made one appear. So the lesson behind that is if you don't ask, you'll never know, right? A lot of my mentees at your stage of your career, they're afraid to ask, and then you don't get boba. Just ask. That's part of striving with intention. Like when you make your next decision or your next choice or your, you know, even your next push to your repo, like, is this intentional or is this just for the sake of it? All right? Imposter syndrome. So, I also still struggle with this. And if I'm doing it, I'm sure many of you are in the same position as well, right? Like you scroll through LinkedIn or Instagram and then you see your peers in like YC or in A16 speedrun and they're like, oh, I'm building the future. And then you're like, well, what am I doing? You're on your own path, and that's okay. All right, I'm going to say it again for those in the back. You are on your own path, and that is okay. A lot of times, people do not share their failures, and they only share their successes. That is not accurate of the real business world, and that is not accurate of how things actually go in industry. There will be many times where your code review is just complete garbage, and your like senior dev is like, why are you even here? And it's up to you to decide how to take that feedback and move forward with construction or, basically lose sight of why you're there. Documenting your wins. So it may seem trivial, but if you are proud of something, recognize it and embrace it and understand that this is something that is pretty awesome, right? Whether it's your first function that works in a code base at prod, whether you push something to dev and it didn't break everything, those are things that you can celebrate and enjoy. Sharing your struggles. So like I talked about before, there's a tendency to glaze everything. That's what you kids say. And the truth is that progress is not linear. Okay, I'm gonna say that again for those in the back. Progress is not linear, and that is okay. Sometimes you will be stuck in a flat plane, and then your next step will be exponential. And you'll be like, whoa, what happened? It's because you kept grinding, right? Like we're only human. And sometimes it's hard to understand that progress is not linear. Embracing yet. So one of the things that a lot of mentees that I have in the Gen Z and Gen Alpha, you do have this vivacity of ambition, which I think is incredible. I think your generation is going to really positively affect the world. And so embrace the idea that you don't know something yet. I can't do this yet. I'm not good enough yet, right? I think the sooner you understand that you are on a journey of progress, the sooner you will understand how capable you can be. I truly believe that. Intentional action. So this is kind of leading into the conversation of well, Russell, you had such a cool start in XR, and then you started working in games. And that was because when I went into my university program and survived this over 50% attrition rate per annum, by the way, it wasn't because I was super smart and super capable. It's because I moved forward with intention. I knew that I wanted to make an impact on the world, and I wanted to make cool stuff with technology, and I thought that games was a great way to do that. And so make sure that as you move towards your goals, you have a clear understanding of this is what I want to accomplish. If you want to be a Sui and Fang, that's it, and that's okay. Do that, but make sure you understand, why. Is it for the clout? Is it because you want to live in SF? I'm gonna tell you, I've been to SF many, many times as somebody who works in this industry. It's aight. It's aight. You're gonna go there and you'll be like, whoa, where's my free healthcare? Why does everybody have guns? I would visit SF and I've worked in SF, but I wouldn't live in SF. And that's not to say that people who want to do that have any, that's fine too, but understand what you're getting yourself into when you go to SF. We have some of the best talent in the world when it comes to software devs. If you look at any top tier, tier one firm for AI, for Sui, Canadians are at the top. We're just there. They come from Waterloo, they come from U of T, they come from University of Alberta, they come from UBC. So be proud, right? But move forward with intention. Micro goals. This one's super key. I don't know why some people step into the world and the first thing I'm gonna do is get 6 or 7 figures as a Sui. No, the first thing you're gonna do as a first year grad is join a hackathon and understand how to work in a team and make a pull request, right? Set micro goals that get you to where you're trying to go. Then it doesn't feel so daunting as you're moving towards that overarching goal. Rituals, not habits. So this is pretty clear. you want to enforce good behaviors on your own part. Like if you do something repeatedly, habitually, if you move forward with intention, you're going to be able to accomplish your goals. Like build habits, right? Sorry, build rituals, not habits. Reflect and adjust. This part really is like mentorship more than anything. Have somebody that is where you are, and then have somebody that's where you want to be. And these are the people that will help keep you accountable, right? Like there's a reason that hacker houses exist. It's not because a bunch of introverts really like living with other introverts. It's because when you pitch your idea, you get real honest feedback really fast, and you get an understanding of like, does this work or does this not work? Yeah, so it's in community. I want to get to the AMA part. So basically, you all know what this is. The idea is, find what you love, find the intersection that doing it helps the world, and find somebody to pay you to do it, right? It's a very simple concept, Ikigai. And pursue the Kaizen. So another great Japanese philosophy. You don't have to improve by 10% every day, because that's not really feasible, but if you improve by 1% every day, after 100 days, guess where you're at, right? It's just math. It's really just math. Continuously try to improve. If it's just one line of code better, if it's one function parameter that doesn't suck, if it's a proper comment on your code, just one line makes you better as a developer, and honestly, you can apply this to a lot of things in your personal life too. Yeah, 1% better, learning from everybody, and iterate fearlessly. So don't get stuck thinking like this is the one thing that I'm going to build and it's going to be the only thing ever. Just throw out prototypes, especially now with the tools that you have available with vibe coding. Like you can get to a really strong initial prototype really, really fast, but only if you move forward with the intention that you're going to keep breaking things and it's going to suck. It's going to keep sucking until it stops sucking, and you're like, wow, I actually got here. Yeah. Okay. So that's the recap slide, but I would like to go to the AMA. Please, this is your opportunity. And somebody will run around with a microphone.